Hello, hello. This is Dr. Anastasia Chopelas, the scientific healer. So today I'm going to talk about 5 foods and 5 supplements that stimulate your immune system directly. This is all backed by scientific research, studies, numerous studies, and I think that you'll find the first one to be a big surprise because when I discovered it several years ago, I also found it to be a big surprise, and it answered the question as to why I didn't get colds once my immune system was back up, why I don't get colds very easily. Up until I got really sick in my early 40s, I hadn't been sick for over 20 years. These things that I'm going to talk about, these 5 foods and 5 supplements, will really move you forward. And what I was saying before, if you can energy heal, why don't you do that to help heal all that? And the thing is that all the steps that I mentioned before, the 10 previous steps, are all practical steps. There were some energy kinds of things, like meditation is energy healing in a sense. But why do all of those other steps if energy healing can take care of it? So I've worked with thousands and thousands and thousands of people now. I've also taught couple of hundred people energy healing. I have healing classes in which I teach, and I'm about to put up some like little simple couple of hour classes that and I will be announcing it in my email. So if you go onto my website, be sure to download like the free healing audio that you see on my front page, so you can get onto the list that announces these free and very low-cost courses to help you get better. The first thing, so what I was saying is, why do all that stuff if you can energy heal? So with working with all those people, the ones that took care of themselves, basically were telling all their cells, I want to be healthy. Right? They're telling all their cells, I want to be healthy. And as they're doing it, doing all the things that I mentioned, like drinking a lot of water, getting enough sleep, exercising, reducing stress, and, not putting any poisons on you or in you. Don't drink, don't smoke, eat very little sugar. A little bit of sugar is okay, but the 4 cans a day can decimate basically your immune system. It suppresses it for that length of time. Like you can suppress your immune system for 6 hours with 2 cans of 12-ounce soda, right? That's like 220 calories, empty calories, go right into your system. So, today I'm going to talk about, these are simple and inexpensive solutions. There's nothing fancy schmancy about it. There are people that, this series was prompted by all of these ads I was getting on through my email list and all through Facebook, buy this $150 a month supplement and, we promise you won't get COVID. And they can't make that kind of promise. And I can't make that kind of promise either, but what I can tell you is that even if you get it, you will be better off, because all of these things that I'm going to talk about today will definitely boost your immune system in ways that even you weren't aware of before. So the first thing that I'm going to mention, and these are the 5 foods and 5 supplements, is the first one is things that are flavored, that have a bitter flavor to your tongue specifically. Okay, so different people taste bitter things differently. Okay, there's 2% of the population, they're called super tasters. And I'm on the extreme end of the spectrum as a super taster. 2%, that's 1 in 50. I was in a class of 50 in college in biology, and they gave us a little paper that said, if you can taste this as bitter, raise your hand. And I was the only one in the class of 50 that could taste the bitter. And a lot of people were sitting there chewing the paper and going, I don't taste anything. So that bitter flavor, it it is in your receptors, not just on your tongue. It's inside your mouth, inside your sinuses, down your throat, in your stomach, in your lungs. And that's because a lot of pathogens, bacteria, viruses, and funguses have a bitter flavor on our tongue. And that is the signal for your body to go into overdrive to help. So it sets a set of biochemical reactions in place that supercharge your immune system. Studies have shown that people that eat those bitter foods have activated their immune system and are sick less often. So what foods might those be? So some people, arugula doesn't taste that bitter to them. Like if I take one tiny bit of an arugula leaf, my whole mouth tastes bitter for an entire day. I just can't get rid of the flavor. I just can't eat that stuff. But to me, a regular spinach leaf is bitter. Regular broccoli, asparagus, it's all bitter. So I'm constantly, by eating fresh fruits and vegetables like grapefruit, some fruits are bitter. By eating those things, I am stimulating my own immune system. And I asked this because I was listening to a lecture from an expert in this field of work, and he was telling us to eat things like cranberry, radicchio, arugula, grapefruit, dandelion greens, curly kale. I mean, dandelion greens, this is a delicacy for Greeks, okay? I'm come from a big fat Greek family. We used to make jokes if you ever see a bunch of women on the side of the hill picking dandelions off of, the highway. It was a bunch of Greeks collecting their food. I mean, on some days you can buy dandelion greens in the store, and my mom would cook it, and I just could not get it down. Like I was like, take a taste, and it was like my whole body would shiver with that bitter flavor. So that little bit of shiver that I got stimulated the immune system. So what it does is it stimulates the white blood cells like the macrophages and the other white blood cells. All of those white blood cells that are part of the immune system get stimulated, and they go on hyper alert. And they will even break through, like bacteria make a coating on themselves that, sometimes when you get bacteria in a pet water bowl and it makes this hard coating, you can't get it off. Well, our body can break through it. It's kind of like a sneak attack on the bacteria. It kind of understands how the bacteria are communicating with one another, and it destroys them. So that to me was like the most amazing thing I'd ever heard. Like I'm going, so it's not a bad thing that I eat bitter stuff. So every day I'm eating fruits and vegetables that are bitter. Carrots are bitter to me. So here's what's bitter to me. Most green food, including broccoli, Brussels sprouts, asparagus, any kind of lettuce, even iceberg lettuce, which is the sweetest one, and romaine and all of those. So this is very helpful to fight any kind of bacterial infection. Okay, so number 2. So that was number 1. I bet you were surprised with that one, right? So number 2 is anything with vitamin C in it, not just the pills, but also the foods that have the vitamin C, because the foods have cofactors. Right, so it's not just the vitamin C, but it's the cofactor in the food. So if you're going to take vitamin C supplements, you need to take the other things that have vitamin C in it. So what it does is it increases your production of white blood cells. Those are made in 70% of them are made in the bone marrow, and 30% are made in the spleen. Right, so this is part of your immune fighting system, right? Your immunity. And then the foods that contain high levels of vitamin C that have all those extra cofactors, those botanicals and all those other things, include strawberries, every citrus fruit, from the ugly fruit and grapefruit and lemons and limes and satsumas and tangerines and oranges. All of those have a high level of vitamin C. Then there's tomatoes, bell peppers, and leafy greens. And if you're going to supplement, they found that the optimal supplementation, so I'm not just only giving you what to eat, but the supplementation is up to 2 grams a day. Don't exceed that unless you're a marathon runner or in very high stress situations. And smokers can help themselves by taking extra vitamin C, because smoking will use up your vitamin C very quickly. And I'm not advocating smoking, but if you are stuck and addicted to smoking, this will help counteract some of the damage that's done. Okay, so food number 3 is garlic. Okay, that's not one of my favorites to eat. I do eat a little bit. It contains what they call an organo-sulfur compound in it. And it's called allicin, Allicin. You can buy allicin as a tincture, and it tastes really disgusting, just like, super garlic. But what it does is it stimulates certain immune cell types, such as macrophages, lymphocytes, and natural killer cells, dendritic cells, and eosinophiles. So eosinophiles is the immune response or the inflammation response that your body goes to when it is invaded. So it improves all of that very, very quickly. So that's why a lot of people advocate taking garlic pills, for example. And I remember when I was younger, because my dad was totally into health food in the 60s. We were the health nuts down the block at that time. And he would take garlic pills, and my mom would send him across the house because she says, "Alex, you can't take those things. You stink too much." So until they got the non-smelly kind, he was forbidden to take them because she couldn't sleep with him in the bed. But anyway, there are ways around that smell, and just be sure that garlic, you can have a little in your food. That what these particular cells do is they surround all the pathogens and they kind of consume them. They neutralize them. And the more of these that you are able to produce in your body, the faster your body can produce them, the better, right? Okay, this is food number 4. The next one is ginger. And you can't probably eat enough ginger to create a massive effect, but ginger reduces inflammation. It helps with seasickness. And when you reduce inflammation, it really helps the immune system, because the immune system's kind of on fire when you're inflamed. And it keeps it from being on all the time. So in other words, it keeps your adrenal glands kind of calm. Because if you're on all the time, you're in fight or flight. And it reduces pain and is rich in antioxidants. The more antioxidants you have, the better, right? And, of course, some of the best antioxidants are like raw cacao powder or cacao nibs, right? Or really dark chocolate I think you have to be over 72%, meaning it's kind of bitter flavored. And that bitter flavor, again, stimulates the immune system. And I kind of like that bitter flavor. I've gotten used to it, cocoa and coffee. So I like the cocoa. It kind of reminds me of the coffee flavor, and I just sort of munch on the nibs every once in a while, right? Then the last food that I'm going to mention is curcumin. Curcumin, or turmeric, is a food that you find in Indian foods and curries and things like that. They now are selling like whole turmeric, their roots, whole things that you can buy in the store. My daughter will take it and chop it up and cook it in with her soups and stuff like that. The great thing about it is it decreases inflammation, it decreases muscle damage, and it also some findings are now showing it to be an immune booster and an antiviral, which is really important right now, because antivirals are the thing that are going to really help us. Other antiviral foods include artichokes and celery and wild blueberries and a few of these other things, right? But these 5 that I mentioned boost your immune system in really amazing ways, especially the bitter taste, right? So here are our 5 supplements that boost your immune system. They include vitamin D. It's essential to pathogen fighting effects of the monocytes and macrophages. Those are the ones that surround and munch it down. Anything that says phage on it, phage means eat in Greek, so it eats up the pathogens, right? It surrounds it, swallows them down. And it decreases inflammation. Okay, so there are billions of people in the world that are suffering from vitamin D shortages, right? Billions. Why? Because we've been told to put on a sunscreen if we go outside. We've been taught to be afraid of the sun, that you're going to end up with skin cancer and the like. And that's just not true. You're not supposed to sit there and bake in the sun for hours on end, and if you're a farmer, to cover your neck and really prone areas. But going out for 20 to 30 minutes a day, depending on where you live, will give you adequate vitamin D, especially if you're below the 35th parallel. In the US, it's about where San Francisco is. Anything above there is, that's where you need more time out in the sun. And the only natural supplement that has vitamin D in it is cod liver oil. And cod liver oil, like I take a swig of it every day, 1 to 2 teaspoons every morning. But I also live at the 33rd parallel, and I go out 2 hours a day, once in the morning around 9 o'clock, and once in the evening at about 6. It's still bright now until 8 because it's almost the longest day of the year. So getting that extra sunshine, and you can see that I don't know if you can see it, but I have a little bit of a tan, not much of one. And that tan is just showing that my body has been creating vitamin D, right? And if you're going to supplement 1 to 4,000 international units a day, depending on your needs and depending on how depleted you are at the moment. One of my doctors, she and I used to talk science a lot, and she said that vitamin D deficiency is a major cause of immune deficiency problems in the northern, more northern parts of the hemisphere, right? Because there's not that many people living south of 35 south, but there's a lot more people living, because all of Europe, like where I lived in Germany, it was the 50th parallel. That was in the middle of Germany near Frankfurt. That was the 50th parallel, right? And it's kind of dark during the winter. That is above the Canadian border here, right? So you can imagine most of Europe is in the dark during the winter. And then they suffer a lot of vitamin D deficiencies. And a lot of them do eat cod liver oil. That's kind of like been the cure. The number 2 supplement is zinc. Zinc is needed for immune cell development and communication. It plays an important role in the inflammatory response, and you need about 30 milligrams a day at the most. You can get liquid zinc. There's a couple of companies that make liquid zinc. It goes into your body more readily. There are foods with natural zinc. And, zinc is a really cheap supplement. I mean, you can go to Trader Joe's and get calcium, magnesium, and zinc, and that supplies you with your essential minerals, right? The number 3 supplement is elderberry extract. Elderberry is not a very tasty berry to eat. It grew all over the place in Germany, and we used to pick it and make an extract and then put sugar in it, and then it tasted good. But it is well known in Germany. It's called Holunder, spelled like Hollander, right? And it's very popular because they are really into their natural solutions, but it is shown to be antibacterial and antiviral. And so everybody used to take like a tablespoon of this every day, of this extract that they would make. There are 4 recent studies that studied almost 200 people, and it showed that people that took this elderberry extract they had their upper respiratory, right? This is a big problem right now with COVID. is that the upper respiratory symptoms were relieved significantly, especially if they were caused by viral infections. So this elderberry extract is really awesome. You can buy a lot of different elderberry extracts. Just make sure it's not like too over sugared or too many chemicals in it, and that it gives you a good supply of it. There are two left. One is selenium. It enhances antiviral defense, right? Because our bodies are susceptible. There is no medical cure for viruses. So the food is, and supplements are really the answer. And here selenium is really important. For most people, up to 55 micrograms a day, it's really, really a small amount. And the foods that contain them, so again, cofactors are important. Foods that contain them are Brazil nuts and walnuts, fresh and saltwater fish, and beef and poultry. But a lot of the liquid mineral supplements, like I take a liquid mineral supplement every day. It comes out of the soil. It's ground. It's called fulvic humic mineral supplements, and I drink a couple of capfuls every day. And I have to tell you, since doing that, my health has changed dramatically for the better. I've been doing it now for several years, and this contains an amount of selenium and the other minerals that are really important. And I will put some of the links in the article when it comes out, probably in 3 weeks or so. It just takes a while because I'm way behind in everything. And then the last one, which may or may not be a surprise for you, is licorice extract. There's many substances. It's called, I can't even say it, glycyrrhizin, right? And it helps protect against viral infections. One thing I know, that it exhibits antiviral activity, and whenever I get a slight tickle in my throat, I drink a couple of cups of licorice tea. I have straight licorice tea here. It's all organic, and it soothes the throat completely, and I go to sleep and I wake up without a single tickle. Right? There is some sort of amazing antiviral activity in licorice. You can't eat a lot of it, especially if you have a tendency to high blood pressure, because it will raise your blood pressure. So you have to be careful and check to make sure it doesn't interfere with any of your own medications. But it is showing, licorice root itself shows a lot of promise for being antiviral. And some tests have been testing against things like the COVID, and they show that it really helped with the severe acute respiratory problems. It helped relieve it so people could breathe better again, and they got better faster. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you. Please give this a thumbs up or 5-star rating. Share it with your friends, and be sure to subscribe to my channel. What I want to do is make sure that everybody is going to have a happy and healthy life. And I will see you again next time, same place, wherever you found me, and for another episode of Scientific Healing. And this is Dr. Anastasia Chopelas wishing you a happy and healthy week. You have a great time. See you next time.